All right, I got a familiar face on here today. Head coach Kyle Hoffman, head coach of men's and women's tennis at Salem University. How are you doing today, coach?
Doing good. You look kind of familiar.
Yeah, I know it's been a little while since we've seen each other. It's actually pretty weird, right?
I know. It
Or
seems
maybe you're
like
enjoying not seeing me. I don't know.
that's a loaded question there, Alec.
Sheesh. Um, you know, I guess where we'll start at, my introduction of Coach Kyle Hoffman is, we knew each other well before he was even my coach at Fairmont. He wasn't the coach that recruited me at Fairmont, which probably a lot of my players at Fairmont or at Salem don't even know really. But he was kind of my personal coach when I was in high school for a little bit towards the end, and he ended up being my coach in college, and now I kind of work for him at Salem. So we've had a lot of history together. He's had a lot of Alec Moran in his life, for better or for worse.
It's hard to get
Um,
rid of this guy.
yeah, I like to say I'm like a cockroach. You really can't get rid of me. Um, but Coach, for your own introduction, kind of give us an idea of your tennis playing background. As a former player in the WIVIAC conference to coaching in the MEC to now still coaching in Division Two.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on first and foremost. I think kind of just like how I can't get rid of you, I can't seem to get rid of being in the Atlantic region. As a former player, I played at West Virginia Wesleyan College back in the early 2000s. With that, ended up having a pretty good career, especially the second half. A lot of ups and downs in that program. Had some really strong teams in my early years there, and then towards the end, got my chance to shine a little bit. As a coach, or kind of after that time, I guess. Like took 2 years completely away from the game. Wasn't even doing that kind of thing. Kind of rolled myself back into wanting to do some stuff locally because I learned from a grassroots program in the Fairmont area. Wanted to start that back up from something that had been historically been going on for a long time from Coach White. Unfortunately, Coach White wasn't able to continue on with the program, so I wanted to kind of take over that and get people back out playing. That actually kind of led me to what people probably some of you may know and some of you don't is that kind of led to my world of the USDA, and then ironically enough, after several years of working with the USDA and helping a lot of other coaches and things, on the sides with helping with drills and practices and stuff like that, kind of led me into my own coaching career.
So, now that you got a little bit of coach's background, obviously I kind of already said he took over at Fairmont State my sophomore season, which would have been 2015, 2016 season. Kind of seems like forever ago at this point. A lot of stuff has happened since then, but when you took over the job at Fairmont, coach, my freshman season we finished sixth in the conference, so the top six make it. So that was Fairmont's first year making the MEC tournament. The year prior, I think they either didn't make it or that was actually the last year where everyone made it. So we finished sixth in the conference. You took over. Your first season, we finished fifth in the conference. So that's only one spot difference. But really, how do you think, and I know this personally, but how do you think the team evolved in that one season under your coaching? And, what were some things that you thought about improving the team? And how do you think that developed in the first year and some of the struggles as well?
Well, I mean, I think first and foremost, I'm a new coach on the block. It's not like I'm coming in from another place and can point to things that we've done in the past. This is a total buy-in thing from the players to say, hey, this is something that we feel we can do, and this is something, the coach makes a lot of sense, and he's got the credibility to do it. I was lucky I could kind of go back on my USDA world a little bit to kind of help me in terms of just kind of the knowledge of the game. I was fortunate enough to be coming from the Atlantic region, my own playing experience, and then of course, just with kind of my job and just an interest in the sport, following the Atlantic region. So I kind of got to already have a feel of what to expect and kind of the level of play. I think one of the things probably is a struggle as a player for you, and the team at the time was we played a really heavy schedule that first year. The record probably doesn't reflect the level of the team that we had even the first year, but a lot of that was really for me as a coach to kind of figure out where the level of competition was too. A lot of times I've found myself watching to see what the really good teams had, to figure out what we needed to do to be able to recruit to combat that. I think at times, we didn't get the results we wanted to on the court, but the guys really bought into pushing themselves, putting themselves in a place that they had chances to win, sets and win matches, things of that nature. But just kind of a new life into the program, and I think for the most part, we really kind of overachieved what we had going in with that mindset, because I don't think we were really expecting a change, and I wasn't expecting to come in. I know you played a large part in trying to get me to come in and start coaching collegiately at the time, but for the most part, we really just we hit the ground running.
Yeah, I guess one thing I kind of forget about is that I was kind of involved in the process of trying to get you to Fairmont and texting you constantly, and I guess that just kind of gets lost in the moment. But it's funny looking back at that and kind of seeing where we were at. At the end of my freshman season, I had pretty low morale about college tennis, and my experience wasn't the best for various reasons, but it wasn't fun to be a punching bag in a lot of ways, both not just as a player myself. I had a fairly decent season. I had some decent wins, and I felt I got better, but as a team, it wasn't always the best knowing, kind of walking into a graveyard, right? And to be honest, the energy wasn't always the best, and I had a lot of feelings that I'd played my last competitive tennis matches when that season concluded. We ended up, losing, I think, 5-0 to UC at the end. And a lot of me felt like that was the end for me. So, having an opportunity for you to come coach us, definitely for me, it breathed a new life into the program. But just me personally, I felt like it gave me something new to chase. And it felt like I had someone that believed in me and someone that believed in the team's winning. Like you said, we played a super hard schedule for the level of talent we had at that time. I mean, I remember us being at spring break and we were just like, Coach, what are you doing, man? We just played.
Two Division I teams, yeah.
Oh, it wasn't even that. We played Virginia Wesleyan, a very solid Division III team, which we had decent results with. But again, a strong D3 team. We played Shawan, who was just brutal at that time. Coach Stanbaugh had some really strong years there. 2 Division I schools, and I don't know if there was any more, but that was just murderer's row. And we were just like, what is Coach doing? Like, he knows we're not that good, right? And looking back at it now, it's funny for you to say, you were kind of scouting the competition and seeing really what we had inside of us and where we could compete. Obviously, that year we had gotten, a new 1 and 2 and bumped everyone down. So even if the results weren't always there as far as winning the team match, we were definitely a lot closer in matches, in set scores. And even in team scores, instead of 9-0, maybe it was a 6-3 or a 7-2. So just seeing that growth in the first year, I think, was really vital for us as players, but also probably for recruits coming in as well, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I could laugh about it now. I know it wasn't really funny at the time in terms of.
It wasn't funny at the time at all. I'll just tell you, I can laugh now, though.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think the competitive side of me is saying that was brutal to kind of go through and why. But I felt like it was a necessary thing. I mean, we were lucky that we had a lot of guys that, kind of bought into what we were doing at the time, kind of learned that they were probably going to be playing different roles moving forward. And I think, one of the big things with the team was that, they felt like they had a chance. Like you said, not always, maybe not getting the result they wanted, but definitely having some opportunities to, take sets off guys, have chances to get some break points and things like that. And just really just not going through the motions. And honestly, I think your freshman year, I can remember several conversations. You may not even remember this.
I remember some of them. There was a lot of
texting me saying like, I don't know if I want to do this for the next, 3 years. And I can remember the fall, and you guys will eat me alive for saying this, but like, I can remember, us doing a lot of like just playing like tiebreakers and super tiebreakers. And I just kept thinking like at the time, like if I'm beating some of the guys on the team, that's probably not a good thing. But what I was learning was that, mentally guys were just checked out. And so it was really just trying to say like, do you really want this old guy coming out there and beating you on the court? Like, let's put some time and effort into this thing and get things turned around. And so, for the most part, like, we got a real good feel that spring of like, who was really going to be working at it, guys that maybe looking at different roles and things like that. I know tons of hard conversations at the end of the year with a lot of guys. Something I think is really tough for any first-year coach at any school or anywhere that you're going. But moving forward with that, I think playing the tougher schedule, players, strong players really want to play a tough schedule. That's what they're looking to do. Traveling around, we definitely did a lot of that, and just trying to make it attractive. I mean, we had the time, we had the facility, and we had the resources to bring in good players, and we were fortunate enough to get a couple guys there for the spring that, like you said, kind of changed everything in terms of you bring in a 1 and a 2, and all of a sudden everybody's bumping down, and it's a whole different feel. But that was kind of the starting block for what we wanted to do.
And one last piece I'd like to talk about that season before we move on. I'd like to hear your opinion on what one of your first highs of that season were for you. For me personally, the Shepherd match that season, my sophomore year, was a big deal to us, and I think we all made it a point that we wanted to beat those guys. We lost the previous year 8-1 when we were similar in talent. I mean, should have been maybe 6-3, but I think winning that match, and especially like we did, we knew it was going to be. We thought it would be a close one. We come out and sweep the doubles, and then we end up. I think we win 7-2. For me, that was one of the first moments where I was like, okay, we just boat raced a decent team, and look at the pieces we have. Like, if we build on this is going to be something special. Like, that was probably the first time Fairmont State had beaten Shepherd in men's tennis. I know since Coach Pugh had been there, but maybe in a long time. I wasn't exactly sure.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably go a little further back in a weird way, that I felt like the Norfolk State match was probably the first one that guys really started to kind of believe. It was just an absolutely wild match as it was. Playing a D1 school, last match on the trip, playing at I think it was 9 or 10 in the morning. I think that was your highlight of beating a D1 player at the time. So kudos to you for that. But I think we lost that match 4-3 or something like that.
4-3, yeah. I won in singles. Ryan was down a set, but the guy ended up retiring, and then we got a 4.
He was up the second set, yeah.
We got a 4. Yeah, and we played the D1 format, yeah.
Yeah, but I think with that, I think the gloves kind of came off in terms of this isn't the same old thing for us. One of the things that I think I was harping on is just kind of as a fan that followed the program at the time, leading up to it, was there wasn't a lot of I guess expectation in terms of what the team could do and not, and that sort of thing, and I felt like there was a lot more opportunity there. And as somebody that had been a fan of it for a long time, I felt like I could help with that a little bit. I think for you all, definitely, I think the Shepherd match definitely boosted things to another level in terms of hey, we actually if we put this together, we're going to be all right. But I think it had just been 30 years kind of leading up to that, where there's just a lot of highs and lows with the program, and that seemed to kind of be the mentality of that first fall that I was there. But I think kind of the roller coaster was kind of starting there by the end of the spring break, and then we definitely came back and got some victories that maybe we shouldn't have, or maybe we had worked hard to get, but they kind of seemed to get the train going.
I definitely agree with you there. And building off of that season, the real loaded question here, and I told you before, I get this question all the time. People, not even sometimes still today, they're like, how did you guys go from where you were in the beginning? Fairmont, I mean, I don't want to say it in a mean way, but we were more of a cupcake. We were the team that in my freshman year and a little bit my sophomore year, I'll be realistic. The Wesleyans and the West Libs, they were like, oh, we play Fairmont today. Let's put in our whatever seed, and we're not worried about it. So, going from that to starting to build something your first year to we come into the fall and people were like, where did you guys find these guys? How is your 1 from last year? Or I guess not your 1, but rather, your 2 and your 3 from last year aren't even in the lineup anymore, and they're still on the roster. We get an American commit, Dylan Early, good player. I think 2-star at the time, but had lots of potential, big hitter. We get Lucas, who came and visited. He actually stayed with me in my apartment. Mateus obviously helped us a lot in his recruitment. We somehow get Guy with Lucas, who's a huge talent that was massively underrated. Pair that with Micah, first team all-conference from the year before. Who am I missing here? Oh, We get Matthias in the spring, another
Right.
huge talent, lefty.
Yeah,
Um,
Tom.
oh, how could I forget my Australian pal? And we get Tom, who he had texted all of us on the team for, I don't know, 8 months before he even got there. We talked to that guy all the time and helped recruit him. People were just like, where did you get these guys and how did you do this? I mean, people asked me that, and I wasn't a coach at the time, so I knew about some of it, and I helped get those guys there as a player. But, what were you thinking at the time, and did you realize the potential that we had to do what we did before it even began?
So funny you ask. I think probably that first year, I was in kind of the recruiting phase of that. I wanted to get off the ground running because I kind of felt like we needed to get some guys signed early if we were going to be able to do it. Personally, I kind of thought it may take another year just because, money issues and people probably wanted to see if we were going to take another step kind of thing. First, to be honest, how I kind of came across Dylan was just from my Wesleyan days. I was thinking like, we had a huge pipeline from Ohio at the time in the WIBIAC conference, and I just always thought there's always really good players out of there. And I thought, being at a state school and things like that, we might be able to, grab a guy to come down. And I'm not totally remembering, but I felt like he had an injury or something that had kind of like taken him off maybe a different track. And I thought we hit it off pretty well, and seemed like a good fit, at the time for everybody. And I was kind of looking at him and Micah kind of being the first kind of two big pieces to really kind of push the program forward. And you always get a lot of international emails and things like that kids are asking about school and things of that nature. I've ended up making a really good friend with Danilo over the years, and he had mentioned Lucas to me, and I really didn't think we were going to have the money to be able to do it. And he said, well, let's have him come and visit, see how it goes. I laughed at this day because, he came and he was here for like 24 hours or something. And we took him up to hit indoors and like on his recruiting visit. And like, he played, toe to toe with Micah. And I'm like, all right, well, this guy's really good. We got to figure this out.
He beat Micah, actually. I think it was like, just one set, like maybe 6'4" or 7'5", but he beat Micah, which to us was just kind of surprising because we'd already met him. And, he's not a big figure kind of guy, he was a smaller, closer
Quick.
to my size. So we were like, that guy beat Micah? He must be pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, I just kept sitting there the whole time we were watching. My dad was assistant coach at the time, and I leaned over to my dad and I said, if we get this guy, we're going to be all right.
Yeah.
And I had to laugh and I'll tease Lucas about this to this day, but like the whole time on his visit, I couldn't tell if he was interested or not. I know he was taking a lot of photos and pictures and things like that, and kind of real quiet about it. But one of the things I felt pretty strongly about is that at the time, the school really hadn't had a strong international presence as a department for international players, and I felt like our first big win was getting Marty there, the year before.
Huge. More important than anyone could ever know. With the off the court piece, I mean, he stepped up and played 2 or 3 for us in the spring, but him helping us recruit Brazilians was the pipeline. That opened the floodgates.
Right. And, I think that really made Lucas more at ease. He probably had several reasons why he chose, to come to school. But I really felt like that was a, really underrated thing at the time. Ironically, not maybe like a month or two later, because I think that was all in January. We kind of wrapped that up. We kind of ran across Tom, who just pure luck that he wanted to study aviation, and we were one of the few schools that had it. So, that was a pretty critical piece. And then to me at that point, I kind of was like, we're going to be good. And then it, over the next couple months, I think Guy kind of jumped in around June, which was kind of a late for us at the time.
Super lucky.
But I can remember when Guy had jumped in, and it was just one conversation and done. And I was kind of surprised it was that quick for him. Now I got to know him over the years, like, not a surprise now, but I can just remember going back into the athletic department and like telling them, saying like, we've got a chance to win the conference next year. And I can just remember the conversations back, like everybody looking at me like I'm crazy. Again, we're talking late 80s last time the program had won the conference. And I was trying, and I'm trying to call that in June, saying like, not saying that we're going to win it, but we have the talent to be able to compete. Um, and I tease you guys all the time too about it is I really don't think that even after we beat Edinburgh that following winter, I don't think that the team really realized how talented they were. I mean, I sat and watched practices all fall and kept thinking like, if we ever can figure out how to play doubles, because we had no idea how to play doubles at the time, that we could play with anybody. And of course, once that kind of fell in place, we had a pretty strong win. Edinburgh was ranked at the time. I still don't think that we really believed. And then, of course, the Wesleyan match a couple weeks later seemed to be the thing that where everybody was like, all right, well, we can do this.
Would you say, I think me and you talked about this a little bit before, but I think I said I thought the Wesleyan match was probably the biggest win during my time at Fairmont. Would you agree with that, or would you say there was one that was bigger?
I mean,
Edinburgh was the most highly ranked team, but just looking at the point of the season, and obviously if we don't beat Wesleyan that day, we don't tie for conference. To me, that one definitely, because if you would have told me 1 year prior even, or even 6 months prior that we were going to beat Wesleyan, I would have just told you were crazy, and I probably did say that.
Yeah, well, you did.
I'm sure I did.
If you remember, I think it was like early part of May. We had did our sit down conversation, and I told you, I said I don't ever want to be sitting down having these conversations this week ever again. My goal is to still be playing tennis. And I said this is just not a good feeling. I know a lot of from a player's perspective. I think that was for you all was the one that kind of got you guys really going. Was the Wesleyan match. But I truly believe if we had not won that Edinburgh match, I don't think that we would have had the confidence to go into that match to do it. And I say that just because Edinburgh is an indoor team. Vitor is an extremely talented player, and you just don't beat him indoors. The guys won ITAs every year indoors, and Lucas goes out there and wins a huge match to get the team going. And, I think that kind of confidence on the court carried over into the belief that they could, win the Wesleyan match a couple weeks later.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if the Edinburgh match doesn't happen, then that whole season doesn't really happen the way that it did. I guess you could almost say Edinburgh was the most important match at the time, and then obviously Wesleyan after that. Both teams very comparable. Did Edinburgh might have been the higher seed that year. I know both of them made it, and we did.
Yeah, they did. We beat two of the top 6 teams and somehow finished 7th. So, it's kind of one of those crazy years where you've got 8 teams, Charleston too at the time, all really strong teams, all beating each other throughout the year. And then, it just really comes down to, head to head and strength schedule and everything to who gets 6 spots to get in.
I mean, even Shaw that year would have been like, what, 9th or 10th?
Yeah, and we had all we wanted from them too.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think we beat UC 5-4. I think we beat Shaw 5-4. I mean, at least in my memory, I know I haven't been around the college Atlantic region like long term. That's the strongest I think the region's been since I can remember in the last few years. Obviously, Shawan being as good as they were and still being in the region makes it massively different then compared to now. I mean, the year after, you would say probably our team might have been slightly lower level. It's probably close, but as in we were top 4 the next season, and we were 7 the season before with similar teams. Or in my opinion, my junior team was a little stronger.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously I think your senior season definitely more experienced.
Yeah, that's true too.
So I think that kind of counterbalances it. But I think talent-wise, we probably were a little more talented.
Just slightly.
Your junior year. You've got Micah who's, his senior year and extremely experienced playing
2-time first team all conference.
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of hard to say that's not a pretty strong team, but the region that year and hasn't really been before or since for a while is
not what it was that year.
Just a perfect storm of just extremely deep, and I mean, it could have gone any way for tons of teams that year.
Definitely. Changing gears just a little bit, I guess, off the topic of our time at Fairmont. Since then, obviously, I think my senior year was the last year that the rules were the old format. Now the new format, obviously, with the doubles piece is all 1 point. All let serves are playable serves. How do you think that the new format, and we just call it the D1 format because D1 adopted it first. How do you think that format has changed things since then? And do you believe that it's helped or hurt the competitive balance of the sport?
Well, I think with the D1 format, I mean, this has been a little bit of a learning curve for myself this past year. In an unfortunate way, obviously, with the season being cut short, kind of gave me a snapshot of it, and then being able to kind of go back and make adjustments from my end as a coach with it. I think it definitely sped up the game. We're all home a lot earlier than what we used to be if we were playing, playing out deuce games forever. Um, but I think for the most part, I understand why it was done. It's definitely going to get for especially the higher levels for any kind of TV ratings and broadcasting for the maybe non-tennis fan to maybe watch for a little bit kind of thing. But I do think probably one of the biggest changes for all of us is just the emphasis on doubles. I think a lot of coaches would agree that once the point's decided, I'm seeing a lot of coaches just not even want to play or finish out the third match. A lot of times, I think there's value in playing that because you may need that match later on. Even sometimes if you're not playing at a facility that necessarily lets you play out a match when it's decided, a lot of teams are stopping. So, unfortunately, you see some players that don't get some of the experience that maybe they would have under the old rule in terms of just getting matches out. But, I think for at least my first go around in coaching, we spent a ton of times in doubles, just trying to learn the game and work on that piece of it. But I think a lot more now it's learning how to play big points. It's a lot more strategy, mental toughness. You can choose which side you want to return or serve. Definitely some advantages for being extra aggressive in this new format.
Yeah, someone just asked me this the other day, and it's weird, the doubles piece, because they said that the doubles piece, why do you feel or how do you feel that it's more insignificant? And it's true because, there's a huge difference from losing all three double spots and being down 0-3 versus losing all three and you're down 0-1. I mean, you're down 0-1. You can easily come back from that. 0-3, you've seen it. I mean, you don't see that often coming down from 0-3 and coming back and winning 5 singles. But the weird thing about it is, even though doubles is more insignificant now, it almost ends up coming back to be super significant because of the fact that how many close, like we're talking 2 teams in a dual match that are competitively close. How many times do they split the singles 3-3? So it's almost like the doubles piece still comes back to haunt you in the end.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's insignificant. I mean, it's going to play a huge, swing for going into the singles play like it has before. I think what it does is it allows teams to be able to kind of hide players a little bit. I mean, I think a perfect example, Alec, you and I had this year is we unfortunately had tons of injuries on the women's side. And how many times did we lose the doubles point and then all of a sudden we go out there and we win 4 singles points and win the match?
Well, Bloomsburg on the men's side is a great example. I mean, we lost 1 and 2 doubles on the men's to start. We didn't go out on 3 doubles. So we've essentially lost all 3 doubles. And we come out and we win the match 4-3, hanging by. But in the old format, going down 0-3, we lose that match.
Right. And, I think for we had that happen, I think 3 times this year where really I'm thinking the Slippery Rock match and
Yep.
I think the Michigan Tech match, we lost the doubles point there. Or maybe we didn't, but
no, we won the doubles point.
we
that
did
day.
win the
We
doubles
actually
point,
forfeited 3 doubles. We won 2 and 1 doubles, granted against the best team on our schedule, mind you. And we win the doubles point with only 2 spots, which is nuts looking back, and then win the match with 4 total players. Completely crazy.
Yeah, and again, if we were playing the old format with 4
Definitely
players,
yeah.
we have no chance. We forfeit, we lose 3 spots right off the bat. I mean, that's just it kind of helps you stay in the game, but at the same time too, like I'm not sure how much it hurts or helps. Teams that maybe trying to stack all their money for their top couple players and then just trying to ride it out at the bottom or whatever the case may be. But definitely doesn't show the depths of the really good teams, so to speak. Whereas, teams that are really deep, a lot of times that kind of comes into play, especially later in the season where you can kind of get away with that in times, especially if you have injuries and stuff.
Absolutely. Speaking on rule changes a little bit, when you were the coach at Fairmont, I think is when the transfer portal kind of started to come to fruition. And, kind of that had been a big thing among NCAA, more so for football and basketball. It had been, kind of talked about, and it's kind of came to life since you started coaching. How has it transformed in the last few years that you've been here, and how do you think it's positively or negatively impacted our sport in particular, but really the NCAA as a whole?
Yeah, I think with the portal, it kind of was set up right when I was leaving. It's one of those things that I don't think anybody really paid any attention to. For the most part, I think in the past the kids were, if they were transferring, they were reaching out to you because there was a reason for that. That you had a program that they were interested in. They're interested in playing for that school, or they had a friend that went to that school. I think a lot more what you see with the transfer portal now is like kids just want to see what their market is. I think a lot of times is they're just putting themselves out there to see if they can get more money or a bigger school that may be interested in them. I think it helps some of the top schools where maybe a player went to a smaller school and has an outstanding year and was kind of under the radar or coming back from an injury, a chance to kind of propel themselves to play at a higher level. But I think it's personally, I feel like it's done more harm than good from what I've seen, just because the smaller schools and things like that are just becoming like quick stops for a lot of players for it. They're playing a season or a half season at a place, just trying to get their name out there, only to try to jump somewhere else and trying to get more money and things like that. A lot of times the coaches, trying to kind of get that culture built where you've got the players playing together and playing for each other kind of thing, where it kind of lets that kind of me mentality jump in because, hey, I've won a couple pretty big matches. I'm going to go put my name out in the portal and see if I can, go play at a bigger school. And I think that creates a lot of hard feelings amongst players. I know even from my, our own stuff here, we've kind of seen some hard feelings sometimes amongst the players, and I understand both sides of it. But I think one of the things that wasn't really the intent of the portal initially, but you've got now access to hundreds and hundreds of coaches in your sport, and it's a free for all. And to be honest, like it becomes a money game at that point. And I think that's just going to make it really difficult on a lot of schools and a lot of coaches moving forward to recruiting and retaining players, just because you're going to see just players in and out for the next few years.
Yeah, to add on to that, you pretty much touched on it, but it makes it incredibly difficult, I feel, for small schools, especially in small sports, to really build a culture. You've only got a team of usually 10 or less in tennis. And, when you have people leaving every year, it makes it so difficult to build a culture and keep these players together for 2, 3, 4 years. You just don't see that camaraderie of players sticking together for 4 years as much anymore. Similar to kind of what we did at Fairmont there. I know not even that team stuck together all the way through. And those guys were all the same class. 3 of them ended up finishing together, but we had 6 really from that year. And it just makes it so tough for smaller schools when like you said, a player has a great season and maybe they're like, I want to test my market. And maybe they're getting X amount from your school. They go test the market and find they can get more somewhere else. So,
Right.
and there's nothing, we have no power against that.
And I think the other piece of that too is the other thing you got to look at is a player may value themselves a little more than maybe their market is, and then you've got a lot of coaches now are starting to see players that go test the market and then they want to come back, and the player says they're out the door one week and then 2 weeks later they want to come back. I don't know how deep the friendships go, but like
How can there not
it
be
makes
hard
practice
feelings?
really awkward for everybody.
Yeah, it creates hard feelings, and especially if you do that and then come back, and it's like you're halfway out the door, halfway in the door. We don't, and it's incredibly awkward, and like you said, it kind of creates some hard feelings that might not have really necessarily needed to happen.
Right, and you've got to worry about that, continuing to happen, and on a larger scale for all schools, and I think with what you're seeing a lot for even the kids that are getting their extra year for this year, some players that maybe have a chance to do their master's program at a certain school, but they're choosing to go somewhere completely different with it. I think I just was kind of looking at some of the top players. They're Hall of Fame players at their school and they're going to go play 1 year somewhere else. I don't know how that does with the relationships for them. I know we see that more in probably professional sports on a day-to-day basis. Tom Brady
Tom
comes to
Brady,
mind here.
Peyton
Um, you know,
Manning, Joe
yeah,
Montana.
they obviously want to see, what what else they got left in the tank kind of thing. But I think that's a little bit of society. It's a little bit of culture. You got to kind of take care of you, kind of thing. But it definitely seems like it's been a complicated added feature in the world for the NCAA, and managing that, especially for Olympic sports like ourselves.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think a lot of coaches would agree with you from all sports, from all divisions. I think the transfer portal, for the most part, at least from our perspective, has been a negative in a lot of ways and made things incredibly difficult for us that were already difficult to begin with. Um, Kind of moving on to this is a really loaded question, I know, and this is one that I actually don't know what your answer will be. So I'm excited to hear. Hopefully, some other people are as well. If you could redo one match in your entire career, both either in preparation or in match tactics or things that transpired, what would that be and why?
Uh, I mean, there's several that come to mind,
Yeah, you
but
can bring up a couple if you want, but
yeah, I mean, I think probably the first one that I really wasn't happy about was probably your first year at the fall. I can remember we had Wesleyan and West Liberty on the schedule for it, and typically in that conference you don't play your conference schedule in the fall, but they were playing those as region matches, and that was already kind of set up, so it was really hard to get out of them. And everyone kept telling me, from the other side that like these were important to play. But looking back, like I knew those were going to be bloodbath matches for us. I really didn't see anything positive coming out of that for us, especially the West Liberty match made no sense to me because we played the Hilltopper Classic one weekend, and then we literally had to go back up the next weekend to play them again. And I can just remember, after the fall season saying, I will never schedule anything like this with a conference team out of season again, because it didn't make any sense with it.
it was unfair scheduling, I think, to us as players too. Like, I mean, the fall normally you don't schedule teams that are, the two of the better teams in your region, two of the best teams in the conference, maybe the two best teams in the conference that year. So I think even as players, we didn't like it either. And obviously, I know you said you didn't schedule it, but it really made no sense on any end.
Yeah, and I hate that. I did everything I could to try to get out of those matches because I just didn't feel like they made sense. But I think probably the toughest one that I regret agreeing to, and I think that was just more of like, and this was your junior year, first really strong year that we had with the program, um, where we'd had everything scheduled up. Everybody was beating everybody at that point. And I gotten the call about playing Chawan, and I had said as a coach, like, we're not going to back down from anybody. I know we're young, but like we need to be battle tested. And I felt like as a coach maybe that was my mistake for agreeing to play that match. We didn't really have any preparation. We played a lot of pretty tough matches leading up to that, and we had, I think, the big one with West Liberty a couple days later, and we had played them like on a Sunday. I kind of got the vibe that like they were going to play a match or two coming up or on the way back. Found out later that that was literally the only match that they came up to play. So we were definitely being hunted. I felt a little bit kind of that we've done something right if people are like making special trips, 8-hour trips to come up to play us, kind of thing. But looking back, probably now, I probably wouldn't agree to that. Saying, if you wanted to play us, set up the schedule when we set up schedules. But I mean, is what it is. We lost 9-0, and I don't think that team was 9-0 better than us. I know they beat Bluefield State, which is the first time Bluefield State had lost in almost 10 years or something for
In the region, I think,
in the
yeah, like
region. Yeah.
closer to 10 years, maybe 8 years.
So it's obviously a really strong team, but like I know that came back from what I kind of understood from when we got left out of the NCAAs. A lot of people pointed to that match, and I thought that was really unfair, just because us agreeing to play that match and losing that match at home seemed to really kind of be punished for doing that. When my thought was if you're going to be one of the top 6 teams, you should play all the top 6 teams. And that year, I thought a lot of schools were ducking each other, and some of them still do. And then they're complaining about why they don't get higher seeds or lower seeds, kind of thing. But I've always been, let's play everybody. So then there's no debate. And I think at the end of the day, I hope moving forward, the NCAA looks at schools that are willing to play everybody that's going to be in the mix and say, these are the teams we should take care of because they actually played head to head, where some teams are just not willing to take losses. I think if you're not willing to do that, then you're obviously trying to hide something.
Right. Definitely. I see now why that you'd say that one. Obviously that team wasn't 9-0 better than us. A lot of close matches that day too that could have went either way. Like it
I think we had 3 or 4
been,
3-setters that day.
Yeah. I mean, so it literally could have been like 6-3 or 5-4. And like you said before, make no mistake, that Shawan team was very good. They beat Bluefield that year. So we were definitely punished for that. And I guess if we were on the other side, we may look at it that way too. A rough spot to be in looking at it from our own way, though. Like you said, beat 2 of the top 6 and competitive with some others, but that 9-0 came back to haunt us for sure.
Yeah, nothing to gain from that match. And again, I think that was more of just the mentality of saying, hey, we'll play people. And, at the end of the day, they started putting comparisons with that. And obviously we ended up playing West Liberty in the bubble, which, you just don't beat West Liberty in the bubble.
Again, bad
time. Circumstances. So, us having 2 9-0 losses to teams that were in
8-1,
the top
8-1.
Or 8-1, sorry. That really just came back to hurt us when they started comparing everybody head to head.
Yeah. Not meaning to cut this off. We probably went way over I think we planned on 30 minutes. We might be around 45 minutes at this point. But, we knew this was going to happen, obviously. Me and Coach joked about this. We said we could probably put down just a couple questions and go for well over an hour. I mean, it's kind of funny because we talk about some of these things off the record anyways. So it's kind of funny hearing some of these things on air. Coach, one last thing for you is, what do you really look forward to the most getting back to college tennis, whenever that may be?
Well, I think for the most part is, building the relationship with the players. I think we had kind of really just started doing that with it, especially on the men's team. We really didn't get a lot of players in until February. So we got 4 or 5 weeks with a lot of the guys. So that's been kind of tough because, they still don't really know us. We don't really know them. I mean, I feel like the girls, we've had a little more time to get to know them as well. But, just kind of getting more of a feel of the day to day. I think it's definitely, got its challenges in terms of just kind of getting back to the grind and getting into a routine. But, creating that culture and the expectations for players, especially, for us now at Salem is we've got a lot of young players that are kind of untested. So, really kind of getting to know them better to kind of know what they can do and what they can't.
Definitely. The one thing I look forward to the most is just getting back to be with our guys and our girls and building those relationships and seeing them grow. I know you touched on the fact that we really haven't been around some of them for very long, but it's really fun. One of my favorite parts is seeing them grow and seeing where they come at from, like we like to say, baby birds when they first come, to seeing them grow and spread their wings a bit and maturing. So that's definitely the one thing I look forward to getting back in the fall. And obviously, people have seen our recruiting class a little bit online. So definitely we're excited to get back with our new recruits as well. And I think I'm looking forward to next season in a lot of different ways. But appreciate you for coming on today, Coach. Obviously, I think it's fair to say we probably have some more content coming, maybe some more Salem-specific stuff in the works. And obviously, Coach has a special guest I might be able to bring on the show, hopefully in the coming week. I won't give it away, but he's kind of known in the Division II tennis world. So appreciate you, Coach. Look forward to seeing you soon. Stay safe. And I'm sure we'll be texting probably in the next 10 minutes.
Sounds good.
See you,
Thanks,
Coach.
Alec.